Welcome to FO Talks. With me is Lieutenant General Cherish Mathson. He is an Indian Army veteran. He commanded a strike corps and was the GOC-in-C of Southwestern Command before retiring in 2019. He also served as a military intelligence advisor to the government. And uh, General Mathson, India says that Operation Sindoor continues. What does that mean? The Indian Armed Forces in a 24/7 war like deployment.
Thank you, Rohan. Thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be with Fair Observer. I've had some interaction with Fair Observer and it's always been pleasant. Uh, to your question about Operation Sindoor continuing, I would say that what happened or what the Prime Minister of India stated was that there is a pause. The media reports it as ceasefire and what have you. But what has been declared is a pause in the fighting. So that which means that it can resume anytime. It can resume anytime. It has not ceased. There are no terms and conditions. A ceasefire invariably has terms and conditions. There is no terms and conditions. It is just that we stop hitting each other and there is a pause. And so Operation Sindoor continues. Now, what does it mean in operational terms, in layman's terms? One, the state of readiness continues. Two, capability development to the extent possible within time available continues. Methods to speed up mobilization continue. Of course, there is no deployment. There is no deployment, and there is no alarm raising, cancellation of leave, and all that thing which uh, the citizens of the country come to know because parents and relatives of soldiers come to know about. So, if we take this, we can say at short notice, we are ready to go to war. That, I would say, is what it means that Operation Sindoor continues. Uh, for whatever reasons it was paused, if anything else triggers it, it can resume uh, immediately. That is what it means. And maybe I would say if it is all out war and not an air war, as we witnessed for the 4 days in May, then it is better that it is done during fair weather. Right now, monsoons are hitting both countries, and it's not the best time when, as you'll have a Kiev-like situation when the tanks moved in. It's not, so fair weather is always good, and one is reminded of 1971 when Field Marshal Manekshaw told the then Prime Minister, Mrs. Gandhi, that if you want me to go right now in April, May, I can assure you that there will be a failure. But if it's done in fair weather, then I can assure you total victory. So weather in our subcontinent, in most places, even if where snow melts, is boggy weather. So that's what I can say about Operation Sindoor.
Do you think an all out war is coming, especially if the weather improves, as you say?
Uh, I don't think an all-out war may take place, but if situations goes bad and if there is a major terrorist attack, it cannot be restricted to the 4 day air war that we saw. It will have to be more than that. How much more than that will strike corps move into Pakistan? Will it be small nibbling actions? across the? Will it be restricted to the northern command, to the line of control, or will it spread into the international boundary? Will it be only in disputed areas, say Sir Creek and the line of control at the south and the north, or will it be all out? It's not predictable. And sometimes conflicts have a way of going out of control. What may start in a small manner may escalate. There is this, the vicious or whatever circle of escalation which can go upward. So we cannot predict that. So we can't say, though recently in a talk that the chief gave, the chief of the army staff, General Upendra Dwivedi gave, he said very clearly that we are prepared to go to war at short notice. So we should all tune in our antennae when the weather gets fair. Let's say after September, we should be tuned in. We don't know how it goes.
You've mentioned the Indian Army Chief. Now let me talk about the Pakistan Army Chief, or Field Marshal Asim Munir. Ever since the May 10 pause in fighting, he's made two visits to the United States. What do you think these are about?
Uh, First of all, I must say that a field marshal's rank is just not given away just like that. Only in countries which have no tradition is it done this way. A field marshal becomes a field marshal after winning a campaign using more than two field armies. Not just with an air war, an exchange of missiles for 4 days. So I don't know why he should wear that rank. But at any rate, why is he visited uh, USA twice? And why is he being treated so well? And why is he allowed to make statements, nuclear threats against, or nuclear saber rattling against India? Is a question which needs to be thought about. We must not forget that it is Pakistan which enabled the détente between USA and China in 1971, first facilitating Henry Kissinger to go to China, then facilitating Nixon's famous visit. And so Pakistan has been the agent which enabled the détente between USA and China. And it continues to hold that kind of a pivotal role. Other than that, if you talk about immediate strategic reasons, one is rare earths, second is the oil that is there in Balochistan. Though Balochistan and Gwadar and everything comes under the China Pakistan economic corridor, USA is very interested in exploiting these minerals, and so uh, it is trying to win over Pakistan for this purpose. Second, as we saw during the Israel Iran conflict, again an air war, Pakistani bases were very useful to USA. I think one of the immediate reasons was get friendly with Pakistan so that you can use their bases. As it is, their F-16s remain in Jacobabad, one of the Pakistan air bases. But in general, to be able to use Pakistan's bases, which is just neighboring Iran, was an immediate reason. Then, of course, the long term reason is Pakistan, because of its geography, allows it to become a good base for missiles to be launched whether conventional or nuclear, against Russia and China. And also, with Gwadar sort of becoming a hub, a commercial hub, with the port being developed, uh, you need to be in touch with Pakistan, uh, because China is soon going to make it into another base. After Djibouti, you will see that Gwadar will become its next base, overseas base in the Indian Ocean. So, because of all this, the USA is interested in quoting Asim Munir, the Pakistani chief of the army. Also, because it's easier to, it's less messy than to contact a democracy where you have to deal with a whole lot of political leaders who have got a commitment to uh, their people who elect them. Here it's very simple. Just one man. You got to just please one man, and what you want is done. That is also why he's being hailed and treated well. That's
It's
what I
almost
think.
like it's almost like dealing with a dictator than a democracy.
Yeah, he is a dictator. He is, for all practical purposes, a dictator. He can jail an ex prime minister and torture him, and he can do whatever he wants. And the nuclear assets are with him. Foreign policy is with him, and he even interferes into the economic uh, running of the country.
Right. And you said he can do whatever he wants. And I want to go deeper into that because he is doing whatever he wants. I mean, he went to the US and he gave two bold statements. First, that Pakistan would fire at least 10 missiles at any dam or construction that India does on rivers in Jammu and Kashmir that are part of the Indus Waters Treaty. That is first. Second, he said that if there was ever an existential threat to Pakistan, they would nuke half the world. And he made these statements in the US, in Florida, which could not be more American. What do you think this signifies?
The particular place from where he did it, and uh, that it was on the soil of the United States, is important. And I think that he's just being given some leeway. For now, the USA is just tolerating him to get out of him whatever they want. I don't think, see, whenever there is a uh, Pakistan, India Pakistan conflict, or the likelihood of a conflict, like after Balakot, you know, at that time also I was serving, I was an army commander, and we had deployed, and anything could have
This
happened.
was in 2019.
But
2019.
2019, February
February
2019,
2019.
immediately after Balakot. So we had deployed, we were ready for any kind of action. But then again, it was USA which intervened. And in the autobiography of the then Secretary of State later on, he stated very clearly that we had to intervene and stop both of them from moving their nuclear assets. So, in the world, there is a lot of concern about these two countries going to war or escalating to a nuclear situation. So, I don't think that the USA, who's intervened twice to stop escalation, will encourage a nuclear saber rattling. Maybe amidst all the international events that are going on, uh, much more important. with Ukraine, Russia, tariffs, and what have you. Maybe it just escaped notice at the highest level in that country.
Let's talk about
Or,
let's
yeah,
talk about the highest level in the US. President Donald Trump. He's had newfound love for Pakistan. He says that
yeah,
they've struck a great deal with Pakistan. It involves minerals. It involves oil. Trump even said that there could be a day that Pakistan could probably sell oil to India. And the US administration has designated a rebel group in Balochistan called the Baloch Liberation Army as a foreign terrorist organization. And now, this organization operated heavily in the region of Balochistan, that is also where the China Pakistan Economic Corridor or CPEC is. Why do you think the US is targeting the BLA now?
yeah. This is uh, this is a fact, and it is very clear why it is. Because to do anything in Balochistan, where the minerals are, you need you cannot do anything there if the people of Baloch are opposing it. And BLA is a lead organization which creates problems for anybody operating them. The Chinese are fed up of them. The Pakistan army has been fighting them from the 70s, and there are various insinuations that India is perhaps supporting them. I'm not sure about that, but if you want to operate in Balochistan, if you want to draw their minerals, if you want to do anything there, you have to be able to suppress the BLA, and that's what Trump is doing. Compared to China, which also tells Pakistan to control these fellows, the Americans are more likely to physically intervene and take action against BLA compared to China. That's my estimate. And so, if they have declared them as a terrorist organization, nothing stops them from launching missiles on their training places or their assets. So it gives a reason for USA to hit the BLA and to be able to freely operate in Balochistan to extract the minerals. And then, of course, Gwadar, Gwadar is like the hub. It's a naval hub. It's a commercial hub, and it's a hub for maritime superiority. That's how it is developing, with 100 berths which are being developed by China out there. So it's going to be a huge shipping place, and to share it between military or naval assets and commercial assets is not very difficult. So I suspect that apart from the minerals, the USA also wants its share of the pie in strategic location out there. You must remember that they are quite used to that coast. When they had to hit Afghanistan, they first landed, did an amphibious landing, an unopposed amphibious landing in Pasni. Pasni is not very far from Gwadar. It's on the Makran coast. So they are quite used to this coast. Their Marines are quite used to this coast. They know the geography, and they have been operating. Initial convoys of their logistics went from Pasni to all the way to Afghanistan. So this place is not new to them, and they have realized the potential of this. Now, how it plays out between China and USA, both competing for the same area, we need to watch out and we need to study that.
Right. During America's war on terror, Pakistan was frequently bombed. In fact, most Americans are not aware that many drone strikes were carried out in Pakistan. These were mostly in the north and northwest, in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province and in the Swat Valley, but because that's when Taliban was the main adversary. But now the US is shifting focus towards Balochistan and the BLA, so we could probably have airstrikes and drone strikes on BLA training pads, on their launch grounds. But the point to remember is that the BLA operates in solely Balochistan, and China has had massive presence there for years. I guess for more than a decade. And Beijing has poured in billions of dollars to make sure that the CPEC flies. You know, they've built ports, they've built railways, they've built highways. How do you think China is seeing this? Do you think they're going to be happy that maybe the US is going to start bombing BLA because BLA did target Chinese projects in Balochistan? Or do you think the Chinese are worried that the US is just going to swoop in and take away everything that the Chinese actually put their blood and sweat into in building that?
I I I foresee that Balochistan, Gwadar and Balochistan have got greater potential for confrontation between China and USA, and more likely to manifest than the great confrontation that we all are waiting for in Taiwan. Taiwan is an older story, and everybody talks, whether it's Quad or AUKUS or so many configurations and so many exercises, freedom of navigation exercises, and what have you. But I see greater potential for a US China conflagration, or a kind of a power struggle out here in Balochistan and Gwadar, in these waters, because I suspect that the next planned Chinese base after Djibouti is Gwadar. And when they will do that will be timed with the appearance of their first aircraft carrier into the Indian Ocean. So far, no aircraft carrier of China has gone beyond their waters. When the first aircraft carrier comes into the Indian Ocean, you mark it, that will be the time when the battle for Gwadar will escalate. And why doesn't China's aircraft carrier come into distant waters? Because the S-15, if I'm not wrong, their aircraft carrier aircraft, uh, Shenyang
The
15, I think.
J-15, the J-15,
Uh, the J-15, yeah.
uh, the J-15.
Yeah, J-15. Its capabilities are not that good, and that's why they operate in such a manner that in an emergency they can land back on their airfields. They don't go beyond the range of their nearest airfield or a nearest friendly airfield. Uh, Till that this drawback is overcome, they cannot move their aircraft carriers safely into distant waters. When that happens, India better be ready, and the transformation of Gwadar into a Chinese naval base will become a reality.
You say that Balochistan and Gwadar could be the next battleground between the US and China. Or maybe it already is, and we're only going to uncover it in a few years. But do you think India is going to get sucked into this competition?
India will be concerned, one, because Pakistan is involved, second, because it is the Arabian Sea, and it's a huge part of our exclusive economic zone, and it is the waters which we claim to have control over, and we are proud of saying that we should be able to influence any event in the favor of India in the Indian Ocean. That's what we claim. So, and in our informal agreements with the USA as a strategic partner, uh, India is supposed to be a net provider of security in the Indian Ocean. So, if you are a net provider of security, you better have control over that piece of water, over the ocean. So, India is bound to be involved in it, and we'll be a major player in any kind. More than Taiwan, you may be part of uh, this the grouping of Quad, but more than Quad, you'll get involved if the confrontation is for Gwadar and in the Arabian Sea and for Balochistan, because that is more
General
immediate
Mats,
to us.
right? That is more. I mean, it's next door. Taiwan is a few thousand miles away, I would say, and it would mostly be a naval um, interaction if Taiwan was an issue. But right now, Pakistan is an immediate threat to India. And General Matson, I want to talk more about Pakistan, and this is my final question to you. For the last decade, they have heavily relied on China for weapons and intelligence. And suddenly, now, after May 10th, they are looking west to the US. What do you think Pakistan's strategy is going forward? Are they going to play both sides? Or is Field Marshal Asim Munir serious about switching back to the American camp?
I To answer it very quickly, I would say it wants to play both sides. But let me explain. Pakistan is not new to playing China and USA together. And if you remember at the beginning of this discussion, I mentioned about how Pakistan facilitated the détente between USA and China, and how it facilitated Kissinger going first and then Nixon following, and how China came into prominence, particularly in the World Trade Organization and other institutions, is all facilitated by Pakistan. At the same time, they were members of the CENTO, Central Treaty Organization, which had Turkey, Iran, and Pakistan, with UK and USA supporting. And they were members of the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, which was primarily for Vietnam, but included Pakistan. So while they facilitated the TAN, they were members of heavily, treaty members with the USA, and they left CETO or SEATO because they felt that the Americans didn't support them enough in 1971. They left in 1973. So while hobnobbing or facilitating USA to connect up with China, they were already treaty committed to the USA. Even now, they are a strategic partner to the USA. And at the same time, there's almost a strategic fusion with China in terms of arms and equipment and even strategy. And they can operate almost as one air force, as we saw recently. So, running with the hare and hunting with the hounds is not a new thing for Pakistan. And so, the Chinese are tough customers. They don't give money easily. And when they give money, as we saw in the case of Maldives or Sri Lanka, it's on tough terms. The Americans are slightly more generous, and they can give money overboard and undercover. which is what the generals want in Pakistan. So, easier money, they fulfill the needs of the US, they fulfill the needs of Pakistan, of China, to give them an outlet into the Arabian Sea, and they've got highways already. They'll soon have a pipeline, and whether they pull up oil from Gwadar or they pull up oil from Burma, Sitwe, or wherever, they will be able to overcome, Chinese will be able to overcome what is called the Malacca dilemma. The Malacca Straits is a choke point, and soon as they emerge or are about to enter the Malacca, there are the Indians waiting or looking at them from Andamans. So they are able to overcome the Malacca dilemma. The Americans are able to have bases for Iran, for missiles towards Russia and China. And as I told you, this is a future flashpoint. Gwadar is a future flashpoint. And Gwadar is next to the Strait of Hormuz. And we saw, and the Americans saw, during the operation against Iran, how critical the Strait of Hormuz is. And if you have got a base, and that's what the Chinese are looking at too, as their next base in the Indian Ocean. So I think they'll play both together till there is a flash, till it becomes a flashpoint between these two. Then we'll have to see how Pakistan plays the game. That's what I would say about this.
Right. But do you think China and the US would be okay with Pakistan talking to both sides and then hoping that they both come and have their presence in Balochistan, in Gwadar? Do you think the two superpowers will be okay with Pakistan reaching out to both sides, either for money or for weapons?
They have been managing it so far. But I suppose if a place like Gwadar becomes a flashpoint, then Pakistan will have to choose one way or the other. And I suspect that Pakistan will choose the likely winner and the rising power rather than an empire in decline, which is the USA. And Pakistan is likely to choose China in the long term. At any rate, China is not going to let go of this whole thing, CPEC, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. After having spent more than $60 billion, they're not going to let go of it. Or the amount of investment they're doing in Gwadar. And President Trump may be a short-term phenomenon.
Right.
Another 3 years plus, and he's gone. And the outlook from USA may change, but China is not likely to change. They have a system of continuity, whether it's Xi Jinping or somebody else. The long-term strategy will remain the same. So I suspect that when it comes to a head, Pakistan is likely to choose the rising power in favor of the declining power.
Thank you, General Mathson. That was a very insightful and detailed conversation on what's happening in the subcontinent with regards to India and Pakistan and how the two countries are making their moves. Thank you very much for talking to us, and thank you for joining Fair Observer.
Great pleasure, Rohan, and great pleasure to be with Fair Observer, as always. Thank you very much.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.